Hey everyone, first-time poster here, long-time lurker. Never thought I'd be sharing my own story, but I guess life has a way of throwing curveballs at you. So here it goes. I'm 34M and have been married to my wife, Emily, 32F, for 8 years. We met in college, hit it off right away, and have been inseparable since. Or at least, that's what I thought until recently. My job requires a lot of travel. I'm a regional sales manager for a tech company, so I'm on the road about 60% of the time. Emily works as a nurse, and we've always managed to make it work. We'd have our date nights when I was home, and we'd text and video call when I was away. But about 6 months ago, things started to change. Emily began acting distant. Our conversations became shorter, and she seemed less interested in what was going on with me. I chalked it up to her having a rough time at work. Hospitals have been insane lately, and she was putting in long hours. I tried to be supportive, thinking it was just a phase and that things would go back to normal soon. Then, there were the late-night phone calls. I'd come home and find her talking on the phone in a hushed voice, claiming it was her sister or a friend from work. She'd hang up as soon as I walked into the room, and when I'd ask who it was, she'd get defensive. "Just a friend," she'd say. "Nothing to worry about." But my gut was telling me otherwise. One night while I was away on a business trip, I got a text from Emily around 11 p.m. "Going to bed early? Love you. Good night." I didn't think much of it until an hour later when my buddy Mike sent me a Snapchat from a bar we used to frequent. There, in the background, was Emily. And she wasn't alone. She was with a guy I'd never seen before, and they were way too close for comfort. I didn't confront her right away. I needed more than just a blurry Snapchat to go on. So, I decided to get smart about it. I installed a couple of hidden cameras in the house, one in the living room and one in the bedroom. It felt wrong, like I was invading her privacy, but I needed to know the truth. A few days later, I was back on the road, driving from one client meeting to another, and my phone buzzed. The app connected to the cameras had detected movement. I pulled over at a rest stop and checked the footage. There was Emily, coming home from work. She looked tired, but then she did something that caught my attention. She immediately started tidying up the living room, almost like she was expecting company. And then the doorbell rang. The same guy from the bar entered our house. My heart sank as I watched them hug, kiss, and eventually make their way to our bedroom. I couldn't believe it. My wife was cheating on me, in our home, in our bed. I sat in my car, numb. What was I supposed to do? Confront her? Pretend like I didn't know? I decided to talk to Mike. He's been my best friend since high school and has always been the voice of reason in my life. "Dude, you need to confront her," Mike said when I showed him the footage. "But you need to do it right. Don't just blow up and make things worse. You need to have a plan." Mike suggested I gather more evidence before making my move. He said it would help me in case things got messy, which they probably would. I hated the idea of spying on my wife, but I knew he was right. I needed to be smart about this. Over the next few weeks, I kept collecting footage. It was like living in a nightmare. Every time I checked the app, there they were, together. They'd laugh, watch TV, cook dinner. It was like he had taken my place in our home. I felt like a ghost, watching my life crumble from a distance. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I was sitting in yet another hotel room, staring at the footage of them cuddling on the couch, and I just snapped. I called Emily. She answered on the third ring, sounding out of breath. "Hey, honey, how's the trip going?" she asked, her voice too cheerful. "Who's with you right now?" I asked, my voice shaking. There was a pause. "What do you mean? I'm just watching TV." "Don't lie to me, Emily. I know someone's there." She hesitated. "It's just a friend from work. He came over to keep me company." "Does he know you're married?" I asked, the anger boiling over. "Of course he does. What are you getting at?" "I've seen the footage, Emily. I know you've been cheating on me." There was silence on the other end of the line. I could hear her breathing, but she didn't say anything. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry." "Sorry? That's all you have to say?" I yelled, tears streaming down my face. "How long, Emily? How long has this been going on?" "About 6 months," she admitted. "But it didn't mean anything. I was lonely, and you're always away. I'm so sorry." I couldn't listen to any more. I hung up and threw my phone across the room. It hit the wall and shattered, much like my heart at that moment. I spent the rest of the night pacing the room, trying to figure out what to do next. The next day, I drove back home. I needed to see her, to confront her in person. When I walked through the door, she was sitting on the couch, looking like she hadn't slept all night. The guy was gone, thank God. "We need to talk," I said, standing in the doorway. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I know." We sat down, and she told me everything. How it started, why she did it, how she regretted it. I listened, but I couldn't bring myself to forgive her. "Not yet. Maybe not ever. I need some time," I told her. "I'm going to stay with Mike for a while." "Please don't leave," she begged. "We can work through this. I'll do anything." "I can't be here right now," I said, standing up. "I need to clear my head." And with that, I walked out the door, leaving my life in shambles behind me. So Reddit, what do I do now? Is there any coming back from this? How do you rebuild trust after something like this? I'm lost, and I could really use some advice. Hey everyone, I'm back with an update. First, I want to thank everyone who reached out with advice and support. It's been a whirlwind, and honestly, I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything. After leaving Emily that day, I crashed at Mike's place. He's got a spare room, and he's been a rock for me through this whole mess. We spent the first few nights just talking, drinking, and trying to figure out what my next steps should be. Mike suggested that I take some time off work, but I wasn't ready to face that yet. So I kept up my travel schedule, using work as a distraction. One night, about a week after I left, I got a text from Emily. It was a long message, pouring out her heart, begging for another chance, promising she'd cut all ties with the guy, and that she'd do whatever it takes to make things right. I didn't reply. I needed more time to process everything. Instead, I decided to do some more digging. I had the cameras still set up, and I checked the footage regularly. It seemed like she was keeping her word about not seeing the guy anymore. But trust, once broken, is a hard thing to rebuild. One night, I was sitting with Mike, and he looked at me seriously. "You know, man, you can't just keep watching her like this. It's driving you insane. You need to make a decision." He was right. Living in this limbo wasn't doing me any good. So I decided to meet with Emily. We agreed to meet at a neutral location, a small cafe we used to go to when we first started dating. I got there early, nervously sipping on a coffee, my mind racing. When she walked in, she looked different. Tired, maybe, or just worn down from everything. We sat down, and for a moment, neither of us spoke. "I'm glad you came," she started. "I've missed you." I nodded, unsure of what to say. "I needed some time to think." "I know," she said, her eyes welling up. "I'm so sorry, really. I never meant to hurt you." "Then why did you?" I asked, the hurt evident in my voice. "Why, Emily?" She sighed. "I don't know. I was lonely, and I felt like we were drifting apart. It's no excuse, I know that. I was selfish and stupid." Her words hung in the air, and I felt a mixture of anger and sadness. "Do you still love him?" "No," she said quickly. "It was never about love. It was a distraction, a way to fill the void." "But I love you. I've always loved you." I wanted to believe her, but the betrayal was still fresh. "I need more than just words, Emily. I need to see real change." She nodded. "I understand. I've started seeing a therapist, trying to figure out why I did what I did. I want us to go to counseling together, if you're willing." I took a deep breath. "I don't know if I can forgive you, not yet, but I'm willing to try counseling. Maybe we can find a way through this." She reached out and took my hand, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a glimmer of hope. "Thank you," she whispered. "I'll do whatever it takes." We sat there for a while longer, talking about what had happened and what needed to change. It wasn't an easy conversation, but it was a start. After that meeting, I moved back home, but things were far from normal. We started going to couples counseling, and Emily continued her individual therapy. It was tough, digging into the wounds and trying to understand where things had gone wrong, but we were both committed to trying. A few weeks into counseling, Emily came home from one of her sessions looking more determined than I'd seen her in a long time. "I've decided to quit my job at the hospital," she announced. I was taken aback. Why? You've always loved your job. I do, she admitted. But I need a fresh start, somewhere away from all the memories and the people who knew about the affair. It's a toxic environment for me right now. It made sense, and I appreciated her willingness to make such a big change. What will you do? I've been looking into some clinics in the area, she said. There's one that's looking for a nurse manager. It's a smaller place, and it seems like a good fit. I think that's a good idea, I said, feeling a bit more hopeful. Maybe a fresh start is what we both need. Slowly, we started to rebuild. It wasn't easy, and there were days when I wanted to throw in the towel. Trust is a fragile thing, and every time she was late coming home or got a text from an unknown number, my mind would spiral. But we were working on it, one day at a time. One evening, Emily suggested we go out for dinner. A date night, something we hadn't done in a long time. We went to our favorite restaurant, the one where we'd celebrated anniversaries and special occasions. It felt like old times, laughing and talking, almost like nothing had happened. But as the night went on, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were just playing pretend, trying to cover up the cracks in our relationship. On the way home, I asked her, "Do you think we can ever really go back to the way things were?" She was silent for a moment, then said, "I don't think so. But maybe that's not such a bad thing. Maybe we can build something new, something stronger." Her words struck a chord with me. Maybe she was right. Maybe we couldn't go back, but we could move forward, together. Weeks turned into months, and we continued to make progress. The cameras came down, and I stopped checking her phone. It was a conscious effort to rebuild trust, but it was necessary. We started making more time for each other, going on regular date nights and planning weekend getaways. It wasn't perfect, but it was better. One day I came home to find Emily in the kitchen, cooking dinner. She looked up and smiled, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of peace. "Hey, how was your day?" she asked. "Good," I said, walking over to hug her. "I've been thinking." "About what?" she asked, turning to face me. "About us," I said, "and how far we've come. I know it hasn't been easy, but I'm proud of the work we've done." She smiled, tears in her eyes. "Me too. I'm so glad we didn't give up." As we sat down to eat, I realized that while the road ahead would still have its challenges, we were on the right path. It would take time, patience, and a lot of effort, but I was willing to put in the work. Because despite everything, I still loved her. And I believed we could build something new and beautiful out of the ashes of our past. So, here we are, taking it one day at a time, learning to trust again, and rebuilding our life together. It's not perfect, but it's ours. And for now, that's enough. Thanks for listening, Reddit. Your advice and support have meant the world to me. If anyone has any tips on rebuilding trust or making it through tough times, I'm all ears. We're in this for the long haul, and I know we still have a lot to learn. Hey everyone, it's been a little while since my last update. A lot has happened, and I wanted to share where things stand now. The journey has been rough, but there have been some surprising turns that I think might be worth sharing. So after Emily and I decided to give our marriage another shot, we both dove headfirst into counseling. At first, it was incredibly awkward. Sitting there, talking about our deepest insecurities and the betrayal, with a stranger listening, was tough. But as the weeks went on, it became more bearable, and we started making progress. One of the exercises our counselor suggested was a daily check-in, where we talk about our day, our feelings, and anything that was bothering us. It felt a bit forced at first, but gradually, it became a natural part of our routine. We started to communicate more openly, something we hadn't done in a long time. During one of these check-ins, Emily confessed something that caught me off guard. "I've been thinking a lot about why I did what I did," she said, her voice shaky. "And I realized that it wasn't just loneliness. I was also feeling unappreciated and disconnected from you." Her words hit me like a ton of bricks. I'd been so focused on my work and my travel that I hadn't noticed how distant we'd become. I felt guilty, realizing that in some ways, I'd neglected our relationship too. That doesn't excuse what she did, but it made me understand her perspective a bit better. We also started working on rebuilding trust. Our counselor suggested small, consistent actions to show commitment and honesty. For example, we shared our schedules and checked in with each other throughout the day. It wasn't about monitoring or controlling, it was about being open and rebuilding that sense of reliability. One of the hardest things was dealing with the memories of the affair. Every time I saw Emily smile or laugh, a part of me wondered if she had shared those same moments with him. It was painful, and I knew it wasn't something that would just disappear overnight. Around this time, I decided to take Mike's advice and take some time off work. My boss was surprisingly understanding when I explained the situation, and I took a 2-month sabbatical. During this time, Emily and I planned a trip to the mountains, a place we used to love visiting before life got so hectic. The trip was both wonderful and challenging. We hiked, explored little towns, and had long, deep conversations by the fire. It was like rediscovering each other, remembering why we fell in love in the first place. But there were also moments of tension, reminders of the betrayal that still lingered between us. One night, sitting by the fire, Emily turned to me and said, "I know this isn't easy for you, and I'm so grateful you're giving us another chance. I want to make things right, but I know it's going to take time." I nodded, staring into the flames. "It's not easy, but I believe we can get through this. I just need you to be patient with me, and I'll do my best to move forward." We both knew it would be a long road, but at least we were on it together. When we got back from the trip, things started to feel more normal. We settled into a new routine, one that prioritized our relationship and communication. Emily found a job at a local clinic, which was a much healthier environment for her. She seemed happier, and I could see she was making a genuine effort to change. But life has a way of testing you when you least expect it. One afternoon, I was working from home when I received an unexpected call from an unknown number. I hesitated but answered anyway. "Hello? Is this Jake?" the voice on the other end asked. "Yeah, who's this?" "It's Mark, Emily's former co-worker." My heart dropped. Why was he calling me? "What do you want?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "I just wanted to apologize. For everything. I didn't know she was married at first, and when I found out, I should have ended it. I'm sorry." His words stunned me. Part of me wanted to scream at him, but another part appreciated the apology. "It's too late for apologies, Mark. You've done enough damage." "I know," he said quietly. "I just wanted you to hear it from me. I'm sorry." I hung up, feeling a mixture of anger and confusion. I didn't tell Emily about the call right away. I needed to process it myself first. But eventually I did. She was shocked and apologized again, but I could see she was also relieved that he'd reached out. It felt like a small step towards closure. The next few weeks were a blur of emotions. I kept replaying the call in my head, trying to understand why he'd reached out. Maybe he was feeling guilty, or maybe he genuinely wanted to make amends. Either way, it didn't change what had happened. But something else happened that I didn't expect. Emily's sister Sarah reached out to me. She'd heard about the affair and wanted to talk. We met for coffee, and she was surprisingly supportive. "Jake, I can't imagine what you're going through," she said, her eyes filled with empathy. "But I want you to know that we're here for you. Emily made a huge mistake, but she's been trying so hard to make things right. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive her." Her words meant a lot to me. Having the support of Emily's family made a difference, and it gave me a bit more strength to keep working on our relationship. One day, while going through some old photos, I came across our wedding album. As I flipped through the pages, memories of our happy moments came flooding back. It was a stark contrast to the pain we'd been through, but it also reminded me of the love we shared. I showed the album to Emily that evening, and we sat together, reminiscing about our wedding day. "We were so happy," she said, tears in her eyes. "I want to get back to that place." "We will," I said, squeezing her hand. "It's going to take time, but we'll get there." As the months passed, we continued our counseling sessions and worked on rebuilding our life together. It wasn't always easy, and there were days when the memories of the affair still haunted me. But slowly, the trust began to rebuild, and the love we had started to shine through the cracks. One evening, while we were cooking dinner together, Emily turned to me and said, "Thank you for giving us another chance. I know it's been hard, but I'm so grateful." "I'm grateful too," I replied, feeling a sense of peace. We've been through hell, but we're stronger because of it. We finished cooking and sat down to eat, and for the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful about our future. We still had a lot of work to do, but we were on the right path, and that was enough. So here we are, still navigating the ups and downs of rebuilding our marriage. It's a long road, and there are no guarantees, but we're committed to making it work. I know we'll face more challenges along the way, but I also know that we're stronger together. Thank you all for your support and advice. It's been invaluable in helping us get through this. If anyone else is going through something similar, know that you're not alone. It's a tough journey, but with patience, communication, and a lot of love, it's possible to find your way back. If you have any more advice or questions, I'm here to listen. Thanks for being there for us. This will be my last update. I appreciate all the advice and support you've given me over these past few months. It's been a journey, to say the least. And I think I'm finally ready to put this chapter behind me. After my last update, things started to improve steadily between Emily and me. The counseling sessions were getting easier, and the trust was slowly but surely rebuilding. It felt like we were finally moving forward and leaving the past behind. But then, life threw us another curveball. One evening, Emily came home looking visibly shaken. I could tell something was wrong immediately. "What happened?" I asked, feeling a knot tighten in my stomach. "It's Mark," she said, her voice trembling. "He's been fired from the hospital for inappropriate conduct with other staff members. I had no idea he was doing this to others." My heart sank. Just when I thought we were moving past everything, Mark's shadow loomed over us again. "Are you okay?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. She nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "I just feel so guilty. If I hadn't gotten involved with him, maybe none of this would have happened." "Emily, you can't blame yourself for his actions," I said, pulling her into a hug. "He's responsible for his own behavior. You made a mistake, but you've been working hard to make things right. Don't let his actions drag you down again." She sobbed into my shoulder, and I held her tight, feeling the weight of the past few months bearing down on us once more. It was another test, another hurdle we had to overcome together. The next few days were tense. Emily was dealing with the fallout at the hospital, and I was doing my best to be supportive while also managing my own feelings. It was hard not to let the old doubts and insecurities creep back in, but I knew I had to stay strong for both of us. One night, after another particularly tough day, I found Emily sitting on our porch, staring out into the night. I sat down beside her, and we sat in silence for a while, just listening to the sounds of the night. "Do you ever wonder if we'll ever really be okay?" she asked quietly. "I think about it all the time," I admitted. "But I also think about how far we've come. We've faced a lot, but we're still here, still fighting. That has to count for something." She nodded, wiping away a tear. "I just want us to be happy again." "We will be," I said, taking her hand. "It's going to take time, but we'll get there. Together." As the days turned into weeks, things started to settle down again. Emily's new job at the clinic was going well, and she was starting to regain her confidence. We continued our counseling sessions and kept working on our communication and trust. Then something unexpected happened that changed everything. One morning, Emily came into the kitchen with a peculiar look on her face. "I have something to tell you," she said, biting her lip nervously. "What is it?" I asked, bracing myself for more bad news. "I'm pregnant," she said, her eyes searching mine for a reaction. I was stunned. We had talked about having kids someday, but with everything that had happened, it was the last thing on my mind. "Are you sure?" I asked, trying to process the news. She nodded, tears in her eyes. "I took a test this morning. It's positive." A whirlwind of emotions surged through me. Fear, joy, uncertainty. But as I looked into Emily's eyes, I realized that this was a new beginning for us. A chance to start fresh, to build a new life together with our child. "I'm happy," I said, pulling her into a hug. Scared, but happy. This could be exactly what we need to move forward. She hugged me back tightly, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of hope and excitement for the future. The news of the pregnancy brought a new focus to our lives. We started planning for the baby, decorating a nursery, and reading all the parenting books we could find. It was a welcome distraction from the past, and gave us something positive to look forward to. We also made a conscious effort to continue working on our relationship. We knew that having a baby wouldn't magically fix everything, but it was a step towards building a new life together. Our counselor was supportive and helped us navigate this new chapter. As Emily's due date approached, we felt closer than ever. We were still a work in progress, but the foundation we were building felt strong and resilient. The baby brought a sense of purpose and joy that had been missing for so long. One evening, as we sat in the nursery, putting the finishing touches on the baby's room, Emily turned to me with a smile. "I never thought we'd get here," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "Me neither," I admitted. "But I'm glad we did. I'm proud of us, Emily. We've been through so much and we're still standing." She nodded, tears of happiness in her eyes. "I love you, Jake. Thank you for giving us another chance." "I love you too," I said, pulling her into a gentle hug. "And I can't wait to meet our little one." The birth of our baby was a beautiful, emotional experience. Holding our child for the first time, I felt an overwhelming sense of love and gratitude. It was a reminder of how far we'd come and how much we had to look forward to. As we settled into our new roles as parents, the challenges of the past seemed to fade into the background. Of course, there were still moments of doubt and insecurity, but we faced them together, stronger and more united than ever. So, here we are, starting a new chapter in our lives. It hasn't been easy, and there are still days when the past tries to pull us back. But we're committed to moving forward, to building a future filled with love, trust, and happiness. Thank you all for being there for me through this journey. Your advice, support, and kind words have meant more than you know. For anyone out there going through something similar, know that it's possible to heal and rebuild. It takes time, patience, and a lot of hard work, but it's worth it. This is Jake, signing off. Here's to new beginnings and brighter days ahead.